welcome back to my backyard. I'm Steve, and this is a little update of my Jacaranda forest and maybe a little mid-course correction if I can, and also give you guys an opportunity to comment, suggest, be nice, and get me on the right path with this. There's a couple of things happening that I'm not quite happy with. Um, and we'll try and figure it out. Okay. And we're looking at my Jacaranda forest, which has been growing since I trimmed this in either late October or November, and it was pretty severe. All of this has grown back in the meantime. This is the back of the planting. I like these lower trees, and I didn't prune them much, but they're from the front, providing a nice backdrop to this forest and really giving the impression of depth. I kind of wish I had moved these trees a little bit closer when I first planted it. And maybe at some point I'll be able to move them, but I think the longer I wait, the harder that's going to be. All right, so let's look at each individual tree. This tree has sprouted branches right at the cut point or just below the cut point. And I had it facing a south window, with this being the south. So these have pushed their way out. I think what's going to have to happen to this tree is, because they have a tendency to want to grow vertical or seek the sun, I'm going to have to wire some of these down. And I'm not talking about traditional wrapped wire. These are going to have to be guy wired. And you see how they tangle at the top? So this planting is going to have an overhanging canopy always. And I'm just going to have to live with that. I'll try to fill the middle with the middle trees. But let's take a closer look at this one. Okay, this transition didn't work at all. This branch died off completely. So I'm just going to cut this here now, and I'm going to prune up this cut so that it heals well, using a concave pruner that is really, really good. I think it can even get better than that. Or maybe I want to clean that up with something finer. I'll do that later. How am I going to develop this top right now? I think the first thing I'm going to do is clean out the growth that is coming right out at the same point as the branch. This tree has a tendency to really bush out. This would be a nice branch growing in a nice direction, but it has to grow more. So I'm just going to cut off this piece. And when I put it back in the house, I'll put the south on the other side. One thing I want to mention, and it was probably a mistake that I made. I'm sure it's a mistake that I made. When I brought this into the house, I thought it would be a good idea to fertilize the trees with, a nice heavy dose of fertilizer, because I had just pruned them. And you might be able to see in some cases the growth is a little deformed, a little curlicue-y. And that was probably the wrong time to fertilize. So this is a long learning curve, this bonsai stuff. So again, on this tree, we have another branch coming in here. These are leaves, these are not branches. If this lignifies, and if you know what I mean, this is a lignified branch, even though it's very weak. This is starting to lignify, so I know that by the middle of the summer, this will be a branch that I could really try to manipulate. I'm just clearing out the interference right now and the larger leaves and anything growing to the inside of the forest right now. Any one of these leaves could become a branch in the future, but the tree has to decide that. Okay, I'm going to take these lower ones off. They'll probably grow again, but this is a point at which if I were to prune it down to here, that's where the new branching would come out. So that tree is simplified enough, I think. Got a crossing branch here. And once again, I'm going to try and train these down. I may put some guy wires on here, probably not today, or maybe today. I'm also going to try and take the surface down a little bit. This is built up far too much, and it has a tendency to run off. And since it's in the house, I'm trying to limit that as much as possible. I'm sure you understand what I'm trying to say. Okay, this tree now. I'm working on my front trees. I have the same sort of problem, but this hasn't died off. It would be nice if this took off. But once again, it's growing a little bit too vertical. And I kind of want to, if this were a path, which I think I wanted it to be, which I'll refine over the years, maybe I want some sort of archway over the path by just training these branches to the center. And I wish I would have thought of that earlier. Some of these are not going to be trainable, but even something like this, it's so stiff. It's hard to move when it's this lignified. I know I'm going to snap that branch off if I go any more. So, moving on. If I stop talking, it makes it easier when I'm editing these to figure out what to skip. There are some great Jacaranda bonsai videos out there, but every one of them, they either look straight like these, because everything tends to grow vertical. Even when it comes out horizontal, it shoots up vertical. Or they've moved these at the right time and they're coming out horizontal from the branch, and then the tips go out vertical. So you have this strange loop up. I'm not sure that this is the best tree for bonsai, and I haven't figured out what type of shape would make the most sense for a forest planting. So here's a branch that could have been trained down. I'll make these two in line. And this one is partially lignified, but I can see exactly where it would break if I push it. So maybe I'll put a piece of wire under here diagonally, running across the surface, and then guy wire to it from a number of different places. Interesting idea, Steve. Can you figure it out? All right. This tree has a lot of kind of neat stuff happening. Here's a low branch that I don't need. I got two branches here. The one with the most amount of foliage on it is the one that's in the wrong spot. So it's coming off. Just pruning for direction of these fronds. If you notice, these fronds, they're not segmented entirely. They're like a single leaf on the frond. Can you see that? Let me see if I can get closer on that. Right here. They are not segmented like the other ones. They are solid leaf or frond pieces coming off the center stem as opposed to multiple pieces. I don't know what causes that. It may be my fertilizing technique, although those were there before. So the answer is I don't know. I think this is a little better angle to work on it. I'm going to look at it through the other side. I'm looking for areas where I can't see right through and it appears a bit crowded. Here's another top I can take back a little further. Just the stub, actually. I probably should go back further here, but I don't think I will. This is shading out the tree next to it. Out it comes. This is getting a little long. And this is interfering. And shading out this little segment here, which would be nice. It would fill in the middle. But right now what I want to do is rake out some of the soil. A little bit excess in here. Remember, this is where I had that ficus. These are the roots of it. It did not make it. This was that ficus that I thought would be so nice as a ground cover. I'm not having a lot of luck getting that stuff to survive. Goodbye. But in the future, I still have a little bit alive of that. So in the future, I might have more luck with it. Yeah, this is way too high, and I want to leave a little bit of room at the bottom for water to collect before it wholesale runs off the top. This is an artist palette knife, which I find very useful. This is, you know, the product Mucko? Well, I'm sure for some applications it's great. And it wasn't really bad in this application either. What I did was I used it to help build up the back so it would support a little extra height in the planting. So it worked for that. Ooh, look at that. What is that? Ooh, it's like a root nodule. I'll get a close-up of that later. That's weird. I'll probably end up cutting that out, but I'm going to ask the collective mind out there, have you ever seen that before? A root nodule on jacaranda trees. I'm sure you're all going, you didn't know there was root nodules on a jacaranda tree? I'm fairly new at this. And I don't want to come off like an expert because I'm totally not. I've said this before. I'm trying to emulate some of the real masters out there, modern masters out there. I'm not a big fan of like traditional bonsai with um, the poorly created pads or ones that you would never see in nature, unnatural looking. I'm going to have some surface roots at the end of this, which is going to be nice. Here's a spent piece of biogold fertilizer. This is my first experience with that. I'd been using more of the Nigel Saunders method of watering with a micro dose of a high concentration 20-20-20 fertilizer. And that had been working well for me, but I think in a practical sense, in the summertime when these things are out and I'm watering, with the sprinkler more, just so I don't miss any waterings. In those cases, I think the BioGold fertilizer is going to be better for me, slow release, because I won't be hand watering everything. I'll be hand watering some things, but I'm not home all the time. I am retired, but I'm not home all the time. So I'm just going to carve, it's basically moss remnants on this muck away. I'll be hopefully coming up with a different moss topping for this planting. I'm going to use the moss that I dried out. I think I've spoken about that. If I haven't, I will. I dried out a bunch of moss, beautiful, beautiful clumping type moss that had been growing in seed trays all summer long. Stuff I found growing on a retaining wall outside of a Chili's restaurant. I was with my friend Keith, and I made him promise not to tell anybody that I pilfer moss. No one has ever witnessed me doing it before. And then we had a Zoom call with a bunch of our buddies from high school. And what do you think the first thing he said to them was? I'm embellishing that story. He was a lot more loyal than I'm making him sound, but it was funny. Okay, I've taken a lot off of this side, made it a little bit flatter, and it does not look contrived. It looks it still looks nice and hilly like I like it to look. It has the lip at the pot, at the edge of the pot, which I really wanted. The soil's still good. I kind of like the surface roots, so I'm going to sort them out at some point. Some of them are going to have to be cut. Yeah, the moss is a little high here. For the muck piece. This is the end of the muck. I had it come down and taper off, but I'm kind of changing things drastically right now. All right, here's an unfortunate location of a surface root. It's just a little bit too high. Where's it coming from? Coming from this tree, this one. The trees are very sturdy. This one's coming from this tree. This one's sticking straight up out of the soil. I'll just trim the ends off of these. Oops. Sometimes you just can't help tearing roots. You just gotta hope for the best. Ooh, this one's got a nice little surface root flare happening. Of course, it's not from the front angle. All right, let me get back to paring this down a little bit. And I want to show you this nodule. You know what? I think I'm going to cut it out. It's a little ugly. I don't know if it's doing anything. Cut it out with a few of the roots. And I'll throw it in a seed tray. And maybe something will sprout from it. I don't know. Can you see this? Oh, little alien. Continuing on. I want to get the level down on this side now. Okay, I'm gonna have to carve down the muck over here. Boy, having the vision of what you want when you get started with a planting, it changes so much as the trees grow and you look at them more. I'm trying to concentrate just on the forest floor right now. And it's a lot different than I thought it was going to be. I guess that's part of the fun, right? I watched Tony from Tony's Bonsai this morning trimming a needle juniper in a windswept pattern. I don't know if I don't know if that's what he had in mind when he first got the tree. He said that a year ago it looked like it was going to die, so he probably didn't have a plan for that tree. Just, okay, the plan is live, and we'll talk about everything else later. Yeah, this is the old moss topping, so taking this off is helping this process. It's not helping the beauty of this planting much, at least at the moment, but it will help me in the long run. So I hope you'll stick with me with the progress of these plantings. I'm having such a ball doing this, and I appreciate the subscribers that I've gotten so far, it's kind of amazing to me. There really must be a a healthy population out there that's looking for someone else who's doing what I'm trying to do. I know that I was so happy when I stumbled across Nigel Saunders was the first one that I really stuck with. So engaging. It's it's uh, the timbre of his voice, or timbre. I'm not sure how you pronounce that word. Um, it draws you in and helps you with the subject matter that to some is like watching paint dry. So, I've asked my family to subscribe, and they have. But aside from my sister Sue, who has really shown some interest, um, I don't think I'm going to have um, that many family followers unless this is a tree that I stole from their from their yard. And I did have some. I do have some Portulacaria afra cuttings that my sister Sue gave me that I'm trying not to kill. They've all rooted, but they're not bonsais yet. This is going to be fun. Yeah, I've taken a lot of soil off of this. This is going to be a lot easier to maintain now. Okay, that's about it for the Jacaranda forest. I'll put it aside and water it before I bring it back into the house. The temperatures are going down into the 30s tonight, so I can't leave it in the greenhouse because I'll never be able to maintain, high 50s in here without these two heaters running full bore, and just can't afford that. Okay. Am I happy with this? We'll see. Thanks for joining me in my backyard. Steve's Backyard Bonsai is making new videos once again. I've got a few more updates to go. I'm going to update you on my Costco tiger bark ficus, and also on my dwarf schefflera, which was just 5 little sticks. Actually, I didn't count them. Just a bunch of little sticks. But Can you still see the path? Yeah. This might be um, a brick path. Still trying to figure out how to do the perspective. I have these little miniature bricks in two different sizes, but I have a feeling they would take a lot of um, cutting and shaping, and I'm not really set up for cutting and shaping miniature bricks yet. But that could be something for the future. I kind of like the idea of forest walks, paths, some of the more manicured ones look great in bonsai, in miniature. So that's something I'm trying to strive for. Okay, Steve's Backyard Bonsai saying goodbye from my Jack.